What's something that didn't kill you and actually made you stronger? I grew up in a violent alcoholic home. My father made a paddle 24 inches long, 6 inches wide and an inch thick with a wonderful handle. He called it the umpire. Everything was a capital offense. In the second grade I received a B in conduct, anything less than an A was unsatisfactory. So, every night for a month I was forced to strip in front of my mother and sisters and beaten with the paddle 10 to 30 times. This continued for many years. School life didn't help. One day, I was just minding my own business at my lunch table when some kid I had never spoken to before walked up and stood over me. He was basically quivering. In school I was treated like a landmine. I never went out of my way to hurt someone. In fact, I tried to treat everyone with kindness because I knew what it felt like to be treated like dirt. Everyone kind of just expected me to be some monster. To be fair, I carried myself in a way that made me look unapproachable because I just wanted to be left alone for the most part. But I didn't necessarily want people to be scared of me. I was also known for getting into a lot of scuffles in school. I didn't know how to handle my emotions or resolve conflicts with anything other than violence. I wonder why. Anyway, this kid was now standing over me in my lunch. He took the chocolate milk from my tray and put it up to his mouth with shaky hands. I don't know what stopped me from pummeling him right then and there. I think it was because I could sense he wasn't behind this. He took a sip and put it back down on my tray. We didn't exchange words. He just put his head down and walked back to a table of laughing boys. At the center of the table was this kid named Eric. Eric had been one of the only people to give me trouble in my days at the school. He would make sly remarks about my home life and make fun of me with his buddies. He was smart about it though. Or maybe he was just a coward because he would never do it to my face. When the chocolate milk thief returned to the table I saw the laughing guys pull his book from under the table. Eric must have told him that he could only have his book back after he had pulled this dumb prank on me. I didn't say anything then. I waited until school was out. After last period I sprinted to the front entrance because I knew Eric's parents picked him up from the car line out there. I stood to the right of the door and waited. When he finally walked out I tapped him on the shoulder and waited for him to see my face before I slapped him. I slapped him so hard that his lip split. I expected him to punch me in the face in retaliation but all he did was sniff back a few tears and run for the nearest teacher. Within the hour I was in the principal's office. She was a serious stickler but she had a soft spot for me. We had our fair share of encounters throughout my career. Usually, she would tell me that violence wasn't the answer and send me on my way. This time she had a look on her face that told me things were going to end differently. In total, it lasted about 4 seconds but for that kid, it must have seemed like time was frozen. The long-term severe brain damage which he no doubt suffered, only added to that effect. When I finished forcing the little boy to huff my farts, there was a silent, pregnant pause. The kid was clearly shocked and stunned. No one had ever stood up to this dwarf sociopath in his whole life. I had taken the words out of his mouth and filled it with fart. I make my move first, picking up the toy I was reaching for off the low shelf, take a few steps forward and stare at it for a few seconds. The only thing the kid could manage to do was burst into tears. My friend senses danger since the jig is up and his head darts for cover. The mom turns around to see her kid with an open toy, crying on the floor and me minding my own business. She walks up to him and asks what's wrong but the kid can't speak. All he gets out is a measly fart. Before going back to crying. It took every fiber in my body not to laugh. I put the toy back on a middle shelf, turn around, give a final nonchalant look-see and then begin to take my exit. Sensing that his assailant was getting away scot-free, he somehow managed to compose himself for a moment. He shouts, "He farted on me." I could feel him pointing at me but I continued to act like I was just browsing. I was almost around the corner when the mom goes, "Excuse me." I turn around unfazed. Who? Me? While pointing to myself. Yes. Did you just fart on my son? Weighing my options, I played dumb. What? I mean, I did fart. On my son? Well, I mean, technically speaking. I mean, what is on? Why did you fart on my son? At this point the little kid has a smug look on his face, happy to see me in trouble. Screw you, I'm a man. I will fart on you if I please. I turn my attention to the little kid and stare at him, because the whole store could hear him being a little rotten brat to his mother so I thought I'd come over here and treat him like one. The mom looks at me, her son and the scattered G.I. Joe wrappers and box on the floor. The mom is puzzled as to what to do and says, just go. That's my cue. I turn around and walk away with a little extra step. I look up to see the black orb of security cameras and all the stories online about unjustly having to register as an offender flash before my eyes. As soon as I turn the corner, I book it outside as fast as I can while dialing my friend. Like a true friend, he is right out front with the engine running in the game we had bought in the trunk. We laugh on the car ride back about the whole scene. With a slight hint of seriousness in his tone, my friend asks me, "Do you do that a lot?" Not that much. Like once every 6 months or so. We both knew I was lying.